In a quiet village, surrounded by hills and fields, there once lived a woman named Maryam. She had been widowed young, left to care for her 3 children on her own. Life had never been easy for Maryam, but with her husband gone, the burden grew heavier. She worked tirelessly, doing whatever jobs she could find, to provide for her children. Though they lived in poverty, Maryam ensured that her children never went hungry and that they attended school, hoping they would have a better life than she had known. Maryam's children, Sami, Layla, and Kareem, were her pride and joy. She poured everything she had into raising them, often going without so they could have a little more. As they grew older, her sacrifices bore fruit. Sami moved to a faraway city, finding a good job and sending money home at first. Layla married into a wealthy family and moved across the country. Kareem, the youngest, went to university, full of ambition and dreams. Each of them left with promises to return, to care for their mother as she had cared for them. But as time passed, those promises faded into the background of their busy lives. Sami stopped sending money, his focus on his growing business. Layla, absorbed in her new life, seldom thought of the village. Kareem, caught up in his studies and the excitement of city life, rarely reached out. Letters became infrequent, and visits even rarer. Maryam remained in the small house where she had raised her children, waiting for their return. She continued to work, though her body grew weaker with each passing year. Her neighbors noticed the change in her, how she walked slower, how her once bright eyes seemed dimmed with sadness. They offered help when they could, but they had little to spare themselves. One harsh winter, Maryam fell ill. Her frail body, worn down from years of hard work and little rest, could not fight off the sickness. She sent messages to her children, hoping they would come. But the responses, if they came at all, were filled with excuses. Soon, they said, "We'll come soon." But soon never came. As the days passed, Maryam grew weaker. The neighbors did what they could, bringing food and trying to care for her, but she needed more than they could offer. In her final days, she thought of her children, of the love she had given them, of the sacrifices she had made. She wondered where she had gone wrong, why the children she had raised with such care had forgotten her. Maryam passed away quietly one night, alone in her small, cold home. It wasn't until days later that her neighbors discovered her. They buried her with respect, mourning the loss of a woman who had given everything for her children, only to be left with nothing in return. When word of her death reached Sami, Layla, and Kareem, they returned to the village, filled with guilt and sorrow. Standing by their mother's grave, they wept, realizing too late that they had abandoned the one person who had loved them unconditionally. Their regret was deep, but it could not bring Maryam back. The villagers, though saddened, were not surprised. They had seen it before, parents giving everything for their children, only to be forgotten when they were no longer needed. They hoped Maryam's children would carry their guilt as a lesson, that they would remember the importance of family and never again take love for granted. Maryam's story became a cautionary tale in the village, shared with younger generations as a reminder of the fragility of relationships and the importance of honoring those who care for us. Her small, empty house stood as a symbol of the consequences of neglect, a silent witness to a love that was given freely and a sacrifice that was never repaid. Moral lesson: never you abandon your loved ones, especially your parents. Love them, cherish them while they are still alive. Thanks for watching. Please click the subscribe button to enjoy more interesting and educative storytelling.